Good morning. This is Grassroots Rising, and I'm Jimmy Skogard. Today I'm going to talk about the price and the medical procedure. Integrity in healthcare begins with knowing the cost before care is delivered. When we understand the charge, the service, and the value, trust grows. When we can see where the money goes, we regain agency. I looked at a bill one morning and I saw a charge of nearly $500 for a review of my medical file. When the insurance company processed it, the system accepted it, the charge moved through the machine as if everything made sense. Yet I sat there asking a basic question, seeking to understand exactly what I had just paid for. That question matters. It matters because the bill went through insurance. It matters because the charge may have been legitimate inside the billing system. It matters because I still wanted to understand it in plain English. When we as patients understand every charge, the system builds the trust we all deserve. In nearly every other part of life, we seek a price first. If my truck needs work, we ask the mechanic for an estimate. If the roof needs a repair, I ask the contractor what the job will cost. If I hire a lawyer, an accountant, a plumber, I expect the same idea of the bill before the work begins. In healthcare, we often walk in, hand over our insurance card, receive the service, and wait for the mystery to arrive in the mail. A system built on trust earns that trust through clarity. Trust grows when the price is clear before the procedure. A medical bill can make a person feel small. We see codes, adjustment, network rates, allowable charges, insurance payments, patient responsibility, and explanations that offer limited clarity. The language feels designed for another room, another office, another system already fluent in its own code. So we're left wondering if we're missing something. Are we the dull tool in the room, or has the system become so complicated that confusion now feels normal? I believe most doctors and nurses desire a system built on clarity. I believe many staff members spend their days buried under the rules, codes, and insurance processes that one person alone did not create. That frustration belongs at the structural level. Good doctors, honest nurses, responsible families, rural clinics, ambulance crews, hospitals, and patients all deserve a system that makes sense. The price before the procedure is where the integrity begins. Here's a story about Bob in the emergency room door. A while back I talked with Bob, a Navy veteran. Bob has his method. When he gets sick, he goes to the emergency room. That is how he uses his VA benefits. That is the door he knows. That is the path he trusts. I asked him why he uses the emergency room for care that might be handled through a clinic or a community health center. But Bob is set in his ways. He knows what works for him. He uses the system as he understands it. Bob serves as a clear signal of the path the system has created for us. When routine care flows through the emergency room, the system has obviously trained people to use the most expensive door. When a veteran finds the emergency room simpler than primary care, scheduling, referrals, billing, or paperwork, that tells us something important. We use the path that feels available. If the front door is confusing, we enter through the door we understand. If preventative care feels hard to reach, we wait until the problem becomes urgent. If pricing stays hidden, we stop asking questions because the answers rarely arrive in plain English. Then the whole system grows more expensive. Let's take a look at two families and two very different prices. A problem shows up in household budgets across Wyoming. A friend of mine, he's about 62 years old, he pays $6,000 a year for coverage for himself and his wife through his faith-based group. And then, while out campaigning, I met a family in Pine Bluffs paying a little over $32,000 a year for health insurance for a family of 4. That's a difference of $26,000 a year. That's a pickup payment, that's groceries, that's rent, that's a college fund, that's a family vacation. That's the difference between financial peace and a heavy burden on the family. When one family pays about $6,000 and another pays more than $32,000, the issue reaches beyond personal budgeting. The market is tangled. The incentives are distorted. The patient is left trying to understand a system built behind a curtain. Healthcare in Wyoming is ready for a new model because we deserve a system that works for every family. We pay premiums, we pay deductibles, we pay co-pays, we pay taxes. We pay with time, stress, confusion, and fear. After all that, we deserve a clear answer to the simplest question: what will this cost? Maybe we should move from health insurance to health care. We need to speak plainly. Health insurance is the financing tool. Health care is the actual service. Somewhere along the way, the tool started to dominate the purpose. We built layers around the patient until the money became harder to understand than the medicine. That matters because incentives shape behavior. When we reward health and prevention, we see better outcomes for everyone. When we reward access, families seek help together. When we reward clear pricing, patients regain trust. When we reward outcomes, providers gain room to focus on healing instead of paperwork alone. We need a model that rewards health. We need a system where a doctor has every reason to keep a patient well, where routine care is accessible, where emergency rooms are preserved for true crisis care, where prices are visible, and where each dollar can be traced. This is where Wyoming can lead. I propose a Wyoming Health Fund. We might even call it Cowboy Care. We can create a future where our premiums flow into a state-level health fund, a clear bucket, a Wyoming bucket. And from that fund, doctors, hospitals, ambulance services, clinics, and healthcare providers bill directly for care. Providers set clear prices. Patients see the expected cost before planned care. The system tracks results, access, and prevention. The goal shifts from processing claims to improving health. The details matter. The model needs careful design. Rural hospitals need stability. Doctors need fair pay. Patients need real access. Emergency care needs protection. Fraud controls need strength. Families need choices. Providers need space to practice medicine. The direction is clear. Move control closer to Wyoming families. Make the money visible. Reward care that works. Build transparency before the bill arrives. How do we do it? We set the price before the procedure standard. It starts with a simple principle. Tell us the price before the procedure. For planned care, every patient deserves an estimated price before service, a plain English explanation of the service, a clear split between provider charge, insurance adjustment, and patient responsibility, a simple path where a charge makes sense, a system that rewards better health, prevention, access, and results. Healthcare transparency is informed consent applied to money. Consent grows stronger when the patient knows the cost before the service is delivered. In a crisis, care comes first. When a person is bleeding, having chest pain, or facing an immediate danger, the first duty is to prolong life, stabilize the patient, and act. Most health care happens outside that crisis moment. Appointments, reviews, tests, procedures, referrals, prescriptions, follow-up, and routine decisions offer room for clarity. In those moments, price transparency is possible. It is practical. It is respectful. So we have an integrity test. This is the integrity test for healthcare. Can we understand the charge? Can the family compare options? Can the provider explain the price? Can the system show where the money goes? Can we reward the care that keeps people healthy? When the answer is yes, trust grows. When the answer comes wrapped in confusion, delay, and billing codes, trust weakens. People wait. People avoid care. People use emergency rooms for routine needs. People accept bills that make limited sense because challenging the system feels exhausting. That is how agency gets drained away from everyday life. Agency means the ability to decide our future for ourselves. Healthcare is part of that. A family that understands medical costs can plan. A patient who can compare prices can choose. A community that can see where healthcare dollars go can govern itself with clarity. This is us, rising. This is a call to support our providers and our patients alike. This is for the nurse trying to help a patient navigate paperwork. This is for the doctor who wants more time to heal and less time battling codes. This is for the veteran who enters through the emergency room because that door feels simpler. This is for the family paying more than $32,000 a year and wondering how long that can continue. This is for every patient who has opened a bill and felt lost. We can do better. We can make the price visible. We can make the system understandable. We can reward prevention. We can protect emergency care. We can respect providers and patients at the same time. We can move from health insurance confusion to healthcare integrity. That is the inventory we begin this May. We look at systems around us and ask, what belongs to the people? What serves the people? And what has drifted away from us? Healthcare belongs in that inventory. The price before the procedure is a simple place to begin. If you've ever opened a medical bill and wondered what happened, maybe this is your moment. Tell us your story. Ask for that estimate. Ask what the charge means. Ask candidates, clinics, hospitals, insurers, and public officials how they make healthcare understandable again. Restore our collective humanity by choosing specificity over labels, clarity over confusion, and truth over blind acceptance. Because agency means our ability to decide our future for ourselves, we still hold that power, but only if we choose to use it. Our children and our grandchildren's legacy is in our hands now. Won't you join the movement at SchoolGuard2026.org? Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow.